What up, world? Welcome to this episode of the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast, NFL Quick Takes, NFL and NBA Quick Takes edition. This episode is going to be dedicated to some late-breaking NFL free agency news that came yesterday and some NBA news dealing with Damian Lillard and the health scare that he had. Definitely want to make sure that I get into this and touch on a lot of these topics. Also be touching on docrivers' comments about him still being a good coach and somehow still blowing 3-1 leads. But nonetheless, as always, guys, like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel. You can check the show out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Substack, Patreon, Trovo, and as well as on Podbean. If you're looking the exclusive audio version of this podcast, it is on Podbean, exclusively on Podbean. Certain episodes I do are specific to certain sites. However, this episode is just the video version of the audio copy. I do the audio first and then the video. Just so that way you have the visual content of what I'm saying. Sometimes I know some people like the visual instead of the audio. Some people like audio instead of visual. So give it a little bit of both. Nonetheless, a lot of information to get into. I want to start with Russell Wilson signing with the New York Giants. Guys, this is one of those moves where you knew a move was coming because, let's be honest, the Giants fucking suck and they know they needed a quarterback badly. They couldn't really afford to go into the season with the status quo situation being that what it is, where, you know, Daniel Jones definitely wasn't coming back. That wasn't an option. Drew Lock wasn't the answer. Tommy Cutlets, Tommy DeVito, definitely not the answer. Whatever shit show of operation they were running there at quarterback a year ago, it just clearly none of it was the answer. Daniel Jones did take a lot of heat. I definitely don't think he's a good quarterback, but it was very evident that he wasn't the only problem. So it looks like this year, this offseason, they look to alleviate those problems. They've signed Russell Wilson to a 1-year, $10.5 million contract. Now, that $10.5 million is guaranteed. Keep in mind the contract is worth up to $21 million. That's if he hits incentives within the contract. I do not expect Russell Wilson to hit any of those incentives within his contract. I'll touch on that in the reason and that in a second. But essentially, the Giants can get off of him next year free of charge. No cap casualties, no cap hell or purgatory or ramifications to worry about in any way, shape, or form. Russell Wilson turns 37 in November. This essentially is a bridge quarterback contract. 1 year, $10.5 million definitely puts them still in play for a quarterback within that number 3 spot within the NFL draft next month, which is less than a month away, y'all. I definitely foresee them definitely still taking a quarterback. Shedeur Sanders is definitely still the guy likely in that spot. Russell Wilson, though he is definitely better than what they've had at quarterback, I need people to understand, because I've had people argue, well, you got to understand, Russ, he's definitely better than what they had. He could definitely help get them to the playoffs, guys. Russell Wilson was in Pittsburgh where they've made the playoffs with the likes of Mason Rudolph at quarterback. We all know there that it's really the coaching and the system that is helping a lot of those players and some of those guys overachieve. It is not really anything indicative of the actual quarterback play. If anything, the quarterback play has been an indictment for the Steelers, as it's been exponentially for the Giants. With that being said, though, getting Russell Wilson, moonball right, moonball left. He doesn't throw the ball in the middle of the fucking field. So how in the hell does this help the New York Giants? You're trying to develop Theo Johnson at the tight end spot. You have Tyrone Tracy Jr. at running back. You have Malik Neighbors. Like I said, Shedeur or maybe some type of skill position player at that position. You definitely see them grabbing that. That contract doesn't scream to me that he's a long-term starter. And obviously, it just tells you that he's definitely a bridge quarterback. And it shows you that Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen are hedging their bets. Let's be honest, guys. The owner said it. Yeah, I want to win now, but I'm running out of patience. When the owner says things like that, you're on the clock. So I understand the move. They're definitely doing this to try to win this, situation now, try to win some games this year, potentially make the playoffs, save your job. However, you're still banking by making the move for the future. We project that they're still going to get the quarterback. I still think highly that they're going to get the quarterback. And again, we all know Russell's limited, so they have to get a young quarterback. And I got to give a shout out to the Giants for this. I mean, essentially, the Giants, they went 102, 103 years without even having an African-American quarterback set to start a full season for them. So I got to give them credit for this. But this is essentially bottom of the barrel bargain shopping. They knew Russell Wilson was going to be there regardless. They had eyes on Matt Stafford. Things didn't work out. They're in a situation now where they had to get somebody, definitely more competent than what they had at quarterback last year or within the past 5 years, I would contest. So shout out to the Giants in that regards for that. But yeah, they're definitely still drafting a quarterback. Going up I-95 a bit and going to New England. Handing out big money out there in New England. Patriots had Stefon Diggs, one of the most lucrative contracts I would ever think a player coming off a torn ACL may receive. 3 years, $69 million. Essentially, the contract is $25 million guaranteed via spotrec.com. This is kind of crazy that he got that type of money. Stefon Diggs, he only had like 400 some odd yards receiving last year. We all know in Houston, Nico Collins and Tank Dell were really the primary weapons that, CJ Stroud was going to outside of the tight end, outside Dalton Schultz. That being said, the Patriots are desperate. This is what this screams, desperation. Their wide receiver core is quite trash. They have no one in there that can really create separation or threaten anyone or threaten any corner on the outside that will force you to not even smother the quarterback with the blitz or exotic pass rushes. And Drake May, you're in a situation where Drake May needs somebody to help develop. You're trying to develop this young guy. You want to see if you even want to pay him. If there's somebody that you want to keep around, he has some of the tools and things that you like from him at the quarterback position. However, let's be quite honest. He doesn't have anybody really to fucking throw to. But Stefon Diggs is no longer number one. I've read some articles this morning and late yesterday where they're like, he's a number one receiver. He's a former number one. He no longer creates that separation in space like he once did. He's still a good player. He's still a guy that can definitely help your organization and still help your young receivers, which I think this is mostly what this is for. It's not just, hey, we want Stefon Diggs to go for 1,200 yards. I think if they get 800 to 1,000 yards, that's fantastic. If they get 600 to 800, they're happy with that. I think this is really to help groom the next receiver that they bring in, because if this move doesn't scream that they're maybe looking at Travis Hunter or a receiver in that spot, you're kind of like blind, or maybe we're led to believe this. But I'm just looking at it for what it says. The money they just paid Stefon Diggs, the fact that he's coming off a torn ACL, he's no longer the number one type of receiver that he once was. And you have a situation where you don't really have the skill position guy on the outside, and you're not really paying anybody. Let's be honest. Outside of the Belichick regime ending a couple years ago, Elliott Wolf, who's been the de facto GM for the New England Patriots since, Belichick's been, unceremoniously fired, his drafts have been shit. He has not drafted well at all. Kayshon Boutte, anyone, just hasn't really worked out. So I got why they spent the money. They've been linked and rumored to a lot of receivers in the offseason. So I completely get it. But this was not, indicative of Stefon Diggs being great. And they just knew that, if they didn't give him this contract, he was going to go elsewhere. This was, hey, we can afford to give you this type of money. So fuck it. Why not? Literally, this is a low risk, high reward type situation for the New England Patriots. They literally are in a situation where even paying him this money, it has no significance whatsoever on the salary cap. None whatsoever, which just gives you an idea of the type of money that they're playing with this year, going into next year. So, because again, they don't have a fucking contract guaranteed to anybody of significance yet. And they're still trying to see if Drake May is that guy that they even want to pay the big lucrative contract to. So I understand it completely. If you're New England, you're desperate, got to get the guy in there. So I get it. But they're definitely drafting a wide receiver within the first round. I definitely believe that. And hopping over to some NBA news. This one was a bit scary. Definitely want to make sure I touched on this. We're going into Damian Lillard being out indefinitely with pretty much blood clots. It was very kind of scary. News broke late yesterday after I wrapped up an episode that I did, so I definitely want to make sure I touched on it today. Damian Lillard is obviously one of the best players in the NBA, so seeing him out with this type of injury, it sucks. The Bucks were definitely starting to catch their stride. Currently 5th in the Eastern Conference as far as seeding. So a lot on the line and a lot, at stake, but his health most importantly being first. Via Chris Haynes on Twitter, you guys will see it here. But you see here in the comments from Damian Lillard, it's unfortunate that something outside of my control will come up. Along with the Bucks medical staff, our priorities are to protect my health and safety. As much as I love basketball, I need to be there for my kids and my family, which anybody will understand that. He said, I'm grateful for I'm grateful that the Bucks acted quickly on this. They've been supportive and proactive throughout this process. I look forward to moving past this and continuing my career. Shout out to the Bucks medical staff for not fucking around, doing a thorough and full evaluation. It can't go understated that these guys are dealing with some of the best doctors in the world, some of the best medical personnel in the world. So when they get a diagnosis or they see something, it's see something, say something. And like I said, it's unfortunate that he's going to miss time. I think the Bucks was, like I said, we're starting to catch their stride, but nonetheless, that's not really the important part. The important part is that he survives this, that he gets better, and that most importantly, he's there for his family, and then he can eventually be there for his teammates. So it's kind of a weird situation because it's a blood clot in his calf. It's a deep vein thrombosis, and it's in his right calf. So definitely got to keep an eye on that. A lot of guys, typically come down with this injury playing basketball. You do hear commonly of basketball players getting blood clots, but definitely I'll have more posted and keep you plugged in on what's going on. But he's definitely out indefinitely until those blood clots subside. But his coach is someone that I will definitely be digging into those comments that he made. There's something that should be said about, shallow people and shallow thinking and shallow mindsets. When you are an elite coach, or you've coached at a high level, or you've coached at a level where it should be understood that you're in a results-based business, that what you do and how well you do it will determine how long you stay somewhere, your contract, your legacy, your status, all those things. That whole melting pot, all those things get considered. When I hear a guy like Doc Rivers, say things, via, Mark J. Spears podcast on Adscape. Shout out to Mark J. Spears. Definitely, I follow him on Substack. Definitely follow him, guys. Got a lot of great basketball content. But you're listening to this and you're hearing Doc Rivers say that he calls out unfair criticism for blowing 3-1 leads in the NBA playoffs. I was perplexed as you were when I heard it, but I'll dig into the quote. Quote here from Doc Rivers, and you'll see it here on the screen. It is what it is. It's part of my legacy. There's nothing I can do about it. I got a team that was an 8 seed up 3-1. That is coaching. That's not bad coaching. The one with the Clippers is the only one that got away. But people don't realize that Chris Paul was running on one leg, and he's talking about in the 2015 series with the Clippers, that playoff series. And we also were the underdog in that series. He's talking about against the Warriors. And when you think about it, Houston had home court, not us. Excuse me, I said Warriors. It was Houston versus the Clippers. I misspoke. My apologies. But what the fuck is he talking about? Why is he bringing this up? I mean, Doc, newsflash. And I have to say this because I mean this wholeheartedly. In the words of the late, great Kobe Bryant, the job ain't finished. Why the fuck are you talking about being braggadocious about being up 3-1 and losing? You're being braggadocious about it's unfair criticism that you choke? That you get a team to the pinnacle of getting the job done and then don't seal the deal? That's unfair? People don't take into account your coaching? No, people do take into account your coaching. And they find it fucking hypocritical that you can have consistent 3-1 leads blown at this rate. You have not played at an elite level. You have not coached, at an elite level for a long time. And shout out to the fact that in 2008, yes, you won that championship with Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and KG. You did it. You had a young Rondo. You had Tony Allen. You had a lot of guys there that, that you really did the job. Credit to you. That being said, you got to 2 finals with that roster. You won once. Okay. Outside of that, you choked in Orlando. You choked in Los Angeles with the Clippers. You choked in Philadelphia. And you fucking choked last year with Milwaukee. And you're bound to choke again there. And so you're just I get it. You're setting the playing field and the bridge. You're bridging things so that way, when this happens again, and it more than likely will, you're trying to make sure that people will take into account how good of a coach you are, that you can get teams up to 3-1 in a playoff series, before fucking, getting the doors blown off you or losing in inexplicable, crazy fashion. This is batshit crazy. This is a mediocre mindset coming from a once former great coach and great player. Make no mistake about it. Doc Rivers helped open the doors for guys like Tyronn Lue. But don't you guys think it, and it's funny that I use Tyronn Lue, I'll bring this to attention. Do you guys find it, miraculous that the Los Angeles Clippers had never made the Western Conference Finals until Tyronn Lue was head coach? How many years was Doc head coach? It's inexplicable. It's inexplicable. I never thought I would hear mediocre shit like that coming out of Doc Rivers' mouth, but it doesn't shock me. It doesn't shock me. Very evasive, very deflective, and very much omitting the fact that you have not coached well in these series. You have blown leads. Yes, the players definitely wear some culpability. Fuck yes. Fuck yes. You didn't, wasn't like you went into these playoff series with shit rosters. But at the same time, your coaching has not been up to par to get these guys over the top. So I find it quite fucking hilarious that you would make these statements as if you've done an inexplicably great job to get guys, you're getting knocked out in the first and second round. You're not even making it. You're not even making it to the conference finals. You haven't been in an NBA finals since 2012? No, fuck. 2010. Oh my God. Come on, man. Like Doc, miss me with this bullshit. I'm just glad that, the truth will always come out the light at some point. I've lost a lot of respect for Doc Rivers as a head coach. He definitely has come off somebody who is mediocre to me. Whether you feel that way or not is up to you. But when I see shit like that, it just makes me realize that you are a part of the problem. Man, fuck it. You are the problem. That's going to do it for this episode, guys. As always, like, share, and subscribe. I thank you guys for plugging in. Like I said, check the show out. Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Trovo, Patreon. As always, here on YouTube. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. And I'll have more updates coming from the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast as the day goes along.